I kind of wanted to leave this topic for later on, but since we kind of covered a little bit here, so the current situation in the world, world tensions have obviously been rising since 2002, since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and then further with last year's uh, Hamas attack on Israel, and then this year's widening of the war in the Middle East between Lebanon and Iran, and then in the last few years as well in the Southeast Asia region, China has been drastically increasing world tensions with their navy having incidents with the Philippine navy as well as the Taiwanese navy. I believe in the news that U.S. I believe deployed troops to Taiwan recently. That hasn't been done in many years. So I wanted to kind of, since we kind of already covered bits of this, I wanted to kind of get your take on how this rising tension in the world would affect state defense forces in the near and long term future. How do you feel that state defense force will be more utilized due to these escalating threats?
That's a very good question. I do agree that the tensions in the world, uh, vis-a-vis Russia, I mean, some of the rhetoric coming out of Moscow is just, it's like, what are you folks thinking? And China has definitely, I mean, no doubt about it, they want to take over Taiwan. I mean, let's call it what it is. They absolutely want to do this, and whether or not they attempt it in the next 10 years, I'd say is probably better than even. Um, the problem, of course, is Russia has nukes. China has nukes. China's actually been building quite a few nukes. So I don't see anything like a long, drawn out war between like the West or the United States, Russia, or against with China, with what, Australia, Taiwan, Japan, in the United States. I don't see this as a drawn out World War II scenario. But having said that, I definitely think it is plausible that the entire National Guard and Army and Reserve of that, for that matter, could be brought on active service, federal service. So, with that, I do think it would be I think it would be a great insurance policy if all the states and territories, for that matter, did come up with at least a cadre or a skeleton of a state defense force. It might be an insurance policy that they never cash, but I think it would be a very good one to have to deal with terrorist strikes or just even local disasters if the whole National Guard is federalized.
Since you mentioned that, the I do notice that Hawaii, I believe, was it last year or the year before, was considering developing their own state defense force. Would you believe? You just mentioned just now that you do believe that states like Hawaii, and one idea that I had was Guam as well, since Guam would be a central focus point in any Pacific conflict. You're suggesting that they would develop a cadre as well?
Yeah, Guam is kind of a special case. Guam, well, we could also say in the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas, right by him. Like one of the things I noticed from World War II, all of the states except for four interior ones had created some state defense force, but also territories then of Puerto Rico, Alaska, Hawaii also all had territorial defense forces. Canal Zone, the Panama Canal Zone didn't, and the reason was it just had so much U.S. military already on it. And that's one of the things with Guam. I mean, Guam does have a National Guard, and the National Guard of Guam would, probably just get, federalized with everything else, and perhaps moved off Guam. But it really is it's a fairly small piece of real estate, and there is a big chunk of U.S. military there. Now, having said that, in the event of a real war, those forces are not going to be there to patrol all over Guam. And so I'd say, it might not be a bad idea to have some sort of state or territorial defense force on Guam, because even though it's not a very large place, people who know the local people, who know the areas, would probably be better finding whatever you could find, insertions of commandos or just people to look at stuff or count ships or whatever. It might not be a bad idea, so I wouldn't rule it out, but there is an awful lot of U.S. military on that territory. On the other hand, Northern Mariana Islands, the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas, they actually have very little U.S. military, and they don't even have a National Guard. They just have a little bit of Army Reserve, and that's it. So there's another territory like Saipan and what's the other major island there? Anyway, they would probably benefit also of maybe developing some sort of a state defense force.